Okay, so we carry on with graphs and transformations, and topic for today is points of intersection. I'm sure you can imagine what we're going to be looking at when I say points of intersections and graphs. Okay, so make some notes on the heading and we'll move on. As it states here in this statement here, it tells us that the coordinates of the points of intersection of y equals f of x and y equals g of x are the solutions to the equation f of x equals g of x. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at an example and see if we can solve an equation like that. So in this example, it says on the same diagram, sketch the following curves: y equals x times x minus 3 and y equals x squared brackets 1 minus x. In order to do that, we need to examine the kind of curves we got. The first one, if we have a look at it over here, it says y is equal to x bracket x minus 3. Well, looking at that, I know when I expand it, I'll get a quadratic, and it's going to be a positive quadratic, so it's going to be U-shaped like that. So that's the first clue. Secondly, I can get a few coordinates from here. So if I say let y equals 0, that means that x times x minus 3 is going to be equal to 0, which means that either x is equal to 0, or if you solve that, x minus 3 equals 0, x is equal to 3. So now I've got two coordinates there, 0, 0 and 3, 0. So that's two coordinates. I can also let x equals 0, although I don't really need to, but we'll do it that way. That means y is going to be equal to 0 times 0 minus 3. 0 times anything is 0. So it passes through the origin as we've already got there. So we've got those 2 points. You know, if we sketch it then, it's going to be passing through the origin and 3. So let's sketch it. And it passes through 0 and 3. Now we want to sketch the other curve on the same axes. So if we do that over this side here, we've got y is equal to x squared times 1 minus x. Now, just expanding it, that tells me that I've got a cubic, that's x squared minus x cubed. So it's going to be a cubic curve, but it's negative x cubed. So that tells me that as x tends to infinity, as x gets infinitely large, y will tend to, because it's minus x cubed, it's going to tend to minus infinity very, very quickly because it's cubed. So the graph is going to look like this. It's going to be a cubic that looks like that, because as x gets larger, y tends to negative infinity very, very rapidly. Oops, tends to a negative infinity there. Okay, I can also get some points off this. So we say that y is equal to x squared times 1 minus x. That's just the brackets there, it's not negative. So if y equals 0, that means that x squared times 1 minus x is equal to 0. So either x is equal to 0 or x is equal to 1. So we've got a couple of coordinates there. I've got 0, 0 and 1, 0. So it's going to pass through those points on the graph, on the axes. I can also have a look when x equals 0, but I know it's passing through the origin. So I'm ready to sketch this curve. So let's do that. Passes through 0 and 1, and it looks like that. So let's put the coordinates on there. We've got the origin and we've got 1 here. Good. So for your notes, sketch that curve. It might be handy for you to use the workings that we've got in the margins in your notes then. So hit pause. When you're ready to move on to the next part of this question, hit play again. So in this part of the question, it's telling us to find the coordinates of the points of intersection. So where do they meet? How am I going to do that? Anyone remember? Well, to do that, I've got to do what it says here, equate the equations. So that means I've got x times x minus 3. It's going to be equal to x squared times 1 minus x. I've got to solve that for x, find out what x is. So, first things first, correct, expand and simplify. That gives us x squared minus 3x, which is equal to x squared minus x cubed. I'm going to bring everything to the left hand side, makes my x cubed positive. So that leaves me with x cubed the x squareds cancel each other out, minus 3x is equal to 0. So that gives me then, if I factorize that, x brackets x squared minus 3 is equal to 0. It gives me a couple of solutions, actually gives me 3. So either x is equal to 0 or x squared minus 3 is equal to 0. So x equals 0, and here if we solve this, that means x squared is equal to 3, or x is going to be equal to the square root of 3 and the negative square root of 3. Don't forget it's plus and minus. So that gives us 3 answers where it could be. They want us to find the coordinates of the points of intersection though, not just the x values. So in order to do that, I need to put these x values back in any one of the equations and solve for y. So hit pause, make some notes, and we'll find the y coordinates next. So we've got x equals 0 and x equals plus or minus the square root of 3. So to solve that, I need to sub back into the original equation, any one of them. I'm going to go for the easier one, which is y equals x brackets x minus 3, and if x equals 0, y is also going to be 0, because this implies that y is going to be equal to 0 times 0 minus 3, which is 0. So that's one set of coordinates. Then if x is equal to the square root of 3, that's going to mean that y is going to be equal to the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 minus 3, which is 3 minus 3 root 3. So that's root 3 and 3 minus 3 root 3. That's my next set of coordinates. I suppose I could have factorized that. And finally, if x is equal to minus root 3, that means that y is going to be equal to minus root 3 times minus root 3 minus 3, which is going to be 3 plus 3 root 3. Again, we can factorize that, 3 into 1 plus root 3, and so the coordinates are going to be root 3, 3, 1 plus root 3. Like we said here, we could have factorized that, so it could also be root 3 3 brackets 1 minus root 3. So those are our 3 coordinates. One there, and 1 there. Okay, good. Just recall that's minus root 3. So if you want to hit pause, make some notes, and when you're ready to move on, hit play again. So have a look at another example. So on the same diagram, sketch the curves first. Y equals x squared brackets x minus 1 and y equals 2 over x, or the reciprocal graph. That's 2 over x is quite simple, quite straightforward. But let's look for some coordinates on the y equals x squared brackets x minus 1. So it's a cubic again, but y is equal to x squared x minus 1 cubic because it's x cubed, but this time it's positive cubic, so as x tends to infinity, y also tends to infinity, but to the power of 3. So it's going to be a graph that looks very much like this, because as x gets larger, y also gets larger. Okay, good. So coordinates, let's let y equal 0. X squared times x minus 1 is equal to 0. So either x is equal to 0 or x is equal to 1. Gives us two coordinates, 0, 0 and 1, 0. So we can sketch the curve on the graph like so. It's just touching the origin there, because it's a repeated root, x squared, and then it hairs off quite quickly. And to draw the y equals 2 over x, we know what it looks like. It's going to be a curve in this quadrant and in this quadrant, but it doesn't touch any of the axes. There we go. So y equals 2 over x. So hit pause, make some notes, sketch a diagram, and when you're ready to move on, hit play again. And for the final part of this question, it says explain how the graph shows the following equation has two solutions. So there's our equation. And what they've done is they've equated this equation, this function, with that one there. So x squared brackets x minus 1 equals 2 over x, and they brought the 2 over x over that side. It has two solutions because, as you can see from the graph, they can only intersect at 2 points. They can intersect here and they can intersect here. So those are our two solutions. Make some notes, and it's your turn then to do some classwork for me. Questions for you, exercise 4D. Oops. And it carries on up to question 10. Question 1, you could go down the left hand side of the page and then you start to tackle the questions then. Sketching the curves is important, really important that you can sketch a cubic curve, know when it's positive and when it's negative. Okay, good luck.